year, Greg LeMond in tears over a race he gave away in the Pyrenees. This year, the look of dismay from the American who thought this would be his year. Last year, a battered but victorious Bernard Hinault, whose teammate LeMond waited to help him in the Pyrenees. This year, the Frenchman is already poised to win a record 6th time. The Tour de France bike race has reached the mountains of the Pyrenees. This is the time, this is the place, and these are the men who will try to tame cycling's great race in the Pyrenees Mountains. Bernard Hinault has already shown he has returned with the will and the strength to win again. Hinault's teammate Greg LeMond, last year a reluctant team player, has insisted last year was a mistake. This year, he rides to help no one. The first days of this year's Tour de France, through the flatlands of northern France. Through the peaceful towns, 210 of the best in the world, the largest gathering in Tour history. And even at the beginning of this 2,500-mile odyssey, things began to happen. Since it began July 4th, those strong enough have continued relentlessly. But now, this is the time, this is the place. These are the men who have come to win the Tour de France. And a wily Frenchman and an eager American are set for a showdown while on their way to the Pyrenees Mountains. I'm John Tesh. The Tour de France bike race has reached the Pyrenees Mountains. For the next 2.5 days, millions of these spectators will line these mountain roads. People who have planned their vacations, taken off work for one thing, to be a part of the Tour de France now. For it's here in the Pyrenees where the drama of the Tour has always begun. What you are about to witness is truly one of the great sports spectacles in the world. They come out here to the middle of nowhere, really, to form this gauntlet, because all these folks know the Tour always explodes along these roads. As Phil Liggett reports, now is the time.
So after 10 days of shadowboxing in this year's Tour de France, the race is now about to begin. We're here at the base of the Pyrenees. The mountains left, all of the Pyrenees, all of the Alps. And there are now two distinct types of rider in this year's Tour. There are those who will cross the mountains with the hope of surviving and simply getting to Paris. And there's the handful who really believe they can win this Tour. They must now attack and attack hard in the Pyrenees and then in the Alps. And by the time we leave the Alps, the winner of this Tour de France will surely be known.
This most majestic arena awaits the athletes about to embrace the Pyrenees. Before it's over, at least one question will be answered. Who is the strongest in the mountains? Last year, Greg LeMond and Bernard Hinault were the best of friends. That relationship ended in the Pyrenees. The Pyrenees Mountains in the summertime. These beautiful, tranquil peaks guard well the peaceful valleys below. The music of the water and the wind is interrupted but once a year, when like a giant magnet, the mountains attract the millions who come to watch cycling's great race.
After almost 1,200 miles, the challenges in the Tour de France are clear. Bernard Hinault, the great Frenchman who's trying to become the first man to win 6 times. And Greg LeMond, friend or foe of Hinault, and desperate to become the first American winner of the world's greatest race. And out to beat them both is Laurent Fignon, twice a winner, but out last year with injury, and now he's back to prove a point. After 12 days, the Tour de France has arrived to face the highest roads in the Pyrenees, and the mountains which form a natural barrier between France and Spain are ready to reshape the Tour. The route on this 12th stage leaves Bayonne at sea level to open with the climb of the 3,700 feet Col de Berdin-Curicetta, which is as hard to say as to climb. After 2 smaller climbs, the riders move on to the Col de Marie Blanc at 3,300 feet, not so high but steeper. Finally, the descent is made from the Pyrenees this day to Po after a leg-breaking 135 miles on this, the first real test in this Tour. Like a piece of discarded string, the Berdin-Curicetta is a worthy adversary for the Angels of the Mountains. And on this first challenge, the climbers, led by Hinault, set a pace few will follow. Thousands of spectators have waited all day to catch a glimpse of these talented athletes who have already shed the majority of the riders by half distance. Already 10 minutes behind, the leader for 4 days, Jürgen Pedersen, is about to lose his yellow jersey. The mountains always produce the truth. Even Fignon cannot hide, and a year off with injury is too much. He too has lost the Tour on the very first climb. The double victor struggles like never before. He'll lose over 12 minutes. The man doing all of the damage, Bernard Hinault, shadowed by Greg LeMond, is confounding his critics and setting a pace that is hurting everybody. The Badger is enjoying freedom. At the top of the Berdin-Curicetta, Hinault concedes to Robert Miller, but the first mountain of this Tour has made its selection, and Hinault is still the name.
Behind the leaders are the stories of riders who struggle not to win, but only to finish. Up to this point, 30 of the 210 original starters had dropped from the Tour, and 2 Americans would be next. Today, 2 boys from the States not only battled the mountain, but a stomach virus that left them both weak. Doug Shapiro, on the right, finished his first Tour de France last year. But now, the 27-year-old who grew up in New York was struggling in vain. Enduring the same hardship, Shapiro's teammate and friend Chris Carmichael, whose first Tour de France will end here 1,500 miles from the finish line in Paris. It's been a brave new adventure for Team 711's first Tour, carried on now by Olympic speed skating champion Eric Heiden. And also by the American who made Tour history on its 3rd day, winning a road race. Davis Finney, here recovering from a crash, fights back with the help of an unknown ally from within the crowd.
But at the front of the race, how things have changed, and Bernard Hinault has stunned everyone by attacking and going ahead with Pedro Delgado, one of Spain's greatest climbers and a marvellous ally now. Hinault has left the great climbers gasping, Miller, Claude Croquillon and Greg LeMond. Even Luis Herrera, the Colombian, who'd waited for these climbs to prove himself. How did LeMond feel now, hoping to set the pace? Again, the American is forced to follow in defense of Hinault. This great Frenchman never gives up. And off the mountain, he speeds towards Po, thinking of gaining as much time as possible on a day when the climbers should have contained him. No one expected such a bold attack here. LeMond knows now that his friend at the dinner table is a rival on the road. But even with Hinault gaining many minutes in front, LeMond contains his natural feeling to attack and plays the perfect teammate on this climb. He just keeps an eye on them and refuses to assist in the chase. French-Spanish tandem have made an alliance. Hinault has told Delgado that he prefers to make the pace, and for Delgado to keep out of his way. This is a man trying to win the Tour, and Le Mans doesn't enter in his thoughts. The American wants advice. No one could have expected Hinault would take a 5 minutes lead. These time gaps went out 20 years ago, when the Tour was won by hours, not minutes. Taking on water, Le Mans has been pushed away from contender to that of a helper.
Fully 2 minutes ahead. 2 men, one from Spain, one from France, joined by one common goal. Delgado and Hinault are stealing the day's race, and Hinault moves closer to the yellow jersey every second. The eternal snows of the Pyrenees. These are the peaks that have for decades tested the true champions in the Tour de France. Bernard Hinault nursed along in his bout with an eye infection, which has done nothing today to slow his murderous attack. Greg LeMond, when his teammate Hinault left the pack, he left us all with a question. Has Greg LeMond's unwillingness to take risks today made him just another member of the pack? And what of Fignon? The two-time champion suffering on the climbs has virtually taken him out of the day's race. It's as if Hinault had grown tired of wearing his team jersey and was focused today on yellow. His lust for the jersey ultimately launched him out of the pack. Why did LeMond not follow Hinault's early move? Did he really think the Frenchman had taken a bad risk? And would Greg's decision here end any chance he had of becoming the first American to lead the Tour de France? At the summit of the highest climb, and the crowd barely notices Delgado, for his partner today is Bernard Hinault, who races to the chants of his name. Delgado offers Hinault a drink. It's the only bit of help he has refused all day. The partnership has been a profitable one for both men, and with the Frenchman's overall time standing, if they continue their 4-minute advantage, Hinault will be in yellow.
Since 1903, the Tour de France has shaped people's lives. Pedro Delgado poses no threat to Hinault. He's already 8 minutes behind him on overall time. Riding like the wind, Hinault is producing an attack never seen since the halcyon days of Eddy Merckx, the legendary Belgian who made a habit of achieving the impossible. Le Mans checks the route. The favourite going into the Tour is now way behind, but Hinault rides on the same team. Who is the real leader? Remember the scene last year when manager Cockley stopped Le Mans from attacking because Hinault was behind? What's Cockley saying now with the roles reversed? The hardest enemy to fight is the one who never does the predictable. And Hinault was attacked on the first day in the Pyrenees when the hardest days lie ahead. He knew no one would want to race this soon. The only loser today could be Le Mans. This year, Le Mans has a new teammate. He speaks the same language. American Andy Hampsten is a useful confidant. In the crowded streets of Pau, Hinault plays to his people. How could you expect this man to even think of giving the race to an American on foreign soil? 2 miles behind, Le Mans, sick inside from what seems like a double cross, is paced by Hampsten and followed by Zimmermann, the Swiss champion. On this extraordinary day, Hinault is literally miles ahead, pulled by the magnet of success. And as Miller and Herrera struggle on the final small climb, they must wonder what is left for them in this race now. But Le Mans can wait no longer, and with the show of aggression that the French say he doesn't have, the American, driven by anger, fights back.
At the finish, and watch Hinault in second place, who makes it obvious that he's giving Delgado the win. A personal thank you for the man who has helped Hinault into the yellow jersey. Delgado's breakaway now seen as brilliant, and Hinault's decision to join him even more so. Bernard Hinault had rolled the dice, and the risk had paid off. The decision not to join him was a costly one for the American. Greg LeMond, riding with Colombian Luis Herrera, waited too long to lift his tempo. And through the streets of Pau, LeMond's dreams of a Tour victory continue to evaporate. This is a man very familiar, very comfortable with the yellow jersey. Hinault has said he will retire after this year's race. His charge now is to hang on to the jersey through the rest of the Pyrenees and then the Alps. And still on the course, Le Mans leads Herrera to the finish, 4.5 minutes behind Hinault. The Frenchman is not only in the yellow jersey, he's 5.5 minutes better than Le Mans overall. The La Viclaire rider, who told the press that this year he would sacrifice himself for his American teammate, has shown Le Mans and the world that when it comes to the Tour de France, winning is everything.
Think you still have your own chance? Not sure. Who knows?
The standings with 1,400 miles remaining, Laurent Fignon is out of contention. Le Mans may be just as bad off, 5:25 back, and with some regrets.
You know, if I want to be frank, I probably should have never come on La Viclaire because I feel I'm too close to Bernard Hinault, too close to his strength, that I end up always having to take the second position, and it's my fault. You know, I mean, I probably should have stuck with System U or some other team. That's all I can say.
Is the Tour over, do you think?
No, I don't think so, because, you know, I have to say honestly that I'm going to take my own chance someday when I feel really good.
Frenchman Laurent Fignon, a third win is certainly out of the question now. The race and the country today belongs to another Frenchman. Would Greg LeMond be better off if he never stopped walking? Time will tell, and the decision will come here. The focus of the Tour de France, the subject on live TV and radio shows, is the yellow jersey. The tough, handsome Breton, Hinault, leads this race that has brought him the world's attention. One day after he was embarrassed by his teammate Hinault in the previous race, Greg LeMond prepares this morning for yet another 6 hours of racing. And what has happened to the invasion from the boys of System U? Well, the answer came live on French TV when System U's leader, Laurent Fignon, was found not in cycling gear, but huddled beneath hotel room sheets. Fignon, 12 minutes behind overall and diagnosed with a fever, has dropped out. The La Viclaire team, more powerful than ever, with Bernard Hinault first overall, Greg LeMond second. Two men with the ability to win, an interesting situation for the team's coach.
It's going now be a hard race for 10 days until Paris, and I'm glad to have two guys in front. I don't know who will be the winner in Paris, but one of them I'm sure will be the winner.
I told Greg last night, I think you're strong. You know you're strong when everyone else is hurt, and I think you better go for it, because when you have the chance, don't wait, you know. If you want to win the Tour, don't wait for it, go for it.
I think Greg let Hinault take the initiative in the team.
Was that a mistake?
Well, if he wants to win, he's going to have to pull back 4.5 minutes now. It's going to be difficult.
Do you think the possibility of a Tour win is gone now for Greg LeMond?
Not at all.
Why so?
Because I think he's the strongest rider in the race.
A lot of early morning talk as this war of attrition makes ready to leave the city of Pau, where among other historic happenings, Béarnaise sauce was invented. Of the 2,525 miles of the Tour de France, today's 116-mile climb through the Pyrenees will be one of the toughest. It begins gently, no climbing for the first 45 miles, but then the trip up the Col de Tourmalet, a name which originally meant bad detour. The road could only be accessed by foot until the 17th century. Over the top, straight down, and then the concern is gravity. Back upstairs and the Col de Aspin. Back down again on the tortuous seesaw, and then up the Col de Parasourd, about 5 miles from the Spanish border. That's 106 miles gone. But finally, one more of the Tour's highest category climbs to the ski station of Super-Bagnères. So the ride out of Pau, the largest city of the Pyrenees area, which first hosted the Tour de France back in 1930. Got started, LeMond had another one of his now famous chats with the team car. Is that the confident smile of a rider who is 5.5 minutes behind? What's on his mind? An enormous normal situation, Le Mans would be called upon to protect his teammate's yellow jersey, for Hinault, for the team. Somehow it makes you feel like we've all been here before.
A castle stands sentinel in the Pyrenees, hiding the secrets of the past. But what of the future? The day opens with a surprise. There's always the adventurers, and Dominique Arnault, after only a mile, goes off on a lonely ride. A local man, 42 minutes behind, he has his chance. Above all, he's now the carrot for the chase. On the giant Col de Tourmalet, the riders ascend for 12 miles, and soon the climbers are back in their element. Arnault has gained over 8 minutes, but with being 42 down, he's no threat. Hinault is now in yellow as again the climbers set the tempo. And Le Monde is in no doubt he wants to win the Tour, but he has to think of a way to recover 5.5 minutes from his friend and rival. All of France, it seems, awaits the answer. A year ago, Arnault was a teammate of Hinault and Le Monde, but now he's in the Spanish team and near to Spain's borders. He has the distinction of being the first man across the highest road in the Pyrenees. The newspapers, by the way, are not to read. They go up under the jersey to keep the chest warm on the way down. With a face that shows the pain, Hinault has not succumbed to the climbers, but instead unnerves them all by riding in the front. Still 5 minutes ahead, Arnault goes down. Further behind, Le Monde goes up, and with the summit ahead, it's not just the sun reflecting off his back, it's also the yellow jersey of Bernard Hinault.
So this pack of team leaders heads up the Tourmalet, with one team soon to face some important decisions. Near the summit in the 113-mile race's second climb, and a Frenchman is in charge of his race. The Badger, Bernard Hinault, has once again whipped his fans into a roaring frenzy. Here in this race that destroys mere mortals, Hinault is displaying his superhuman strength.
Is Hinault man or machine? Because no one expected this. 2 attacks in 2 days. Certainly not Le Monde, who was seeing his race dissolve before his eyes. Le Monde now clings to the hope that a Colombian can pull him back into the race. Still ahead are 2 major mountain passes. Is Hinault really a Superman or a fool? In just 8 hours, this marvelously aggressive athlete has done more damage than in the previous 10 days. But at what cost to his own body? The Tour makes men, but it can also destroy them. Yet Hinault's won 5 times before. He knows the tricks the mountains can play. So is it strategy or vanity that makes the Tour leader, with a 5-minute advantage, go out for more? Over 2 minutes behind, the chasers regroup. Even they cannot work out what is in the mind of the Badger. Robert Miller and Greg LeMond keep tempo side by side, each knowing that sooner or later, one of them must attack and go after the man who doesn't know how to be second best. Miles to go, Hinault takes food. There's still the terrible climb to the finish, but everybody, friend or foe, can only admire this demonstration by a rider who has learned to endure pain as well as the glory. Win or lose, he alone is responsible for tearing the Tour de France apart. After more than 4 hours in the lead now, Dominique Arnault will succumb shortly to the inevitable. indicate the approach of the Badger, who will soon be back in his rightful place. Pace behind being set by the Colombians, Le Monde does not look like a rider suffering from altitude. With alert eyes, is he still suffering from indecision, hoping that Hinault's own attack will be his downfall? Further up the climb, Hinault is set to pounce, and after leading for over 4 hours, Hinault will soon slip back from the lead and into anonymity. Without a glance, Hinault continues on his way. The pursuit behind is at 60 miles an hour. And showing the strain of one of the greatest attacks the Tour has seen in maybe 10 years, Bernard Hinault is elevating himself into one of the greatest riders. The man everyone thought would work for Greg LeMond is alone and working for himself.
The ski station at Super-Bagnères, the finish line for those who will make it on bicycles and those who will not. The last official vehicle in each day's race in the Tour is a van with a broom attached to the top. The broom wagon, its safe passage to the finish line for those who cannot continue. Every day, struggling riders try to escape the broom wagon, and their fans put together this bizarre relay to deny the ghoul on 4 wheels its wounded prey. Sometimes, even 1,000 friendly pushes up the mountain cannot prevent the fatigue, the heat exhaustion from taking their toll. How can you possibly climb in the mountains for more than 6 hours, knowing that even if you finish, you're still 1,300 miles from Paris? Bernard Hinault has begun to feel the effects of the heat and the long climbs. The pace that earlier had decimated his rivals is slower now. Behind him, a chase group has formed, including Greg LeMond. Hinault's time advantage is quickly evaporating. They ride eagerly in search of the yellow jersey, and the man who had seemed unstoppable is for Greg LeMond and his group, at least now, reachable. A weary Frenchman in yellow, an anxious American teammate beside him. They will speak Hinault's language. Is it a question or a command? 2 men know the answer along the hellish mountain roads of the Pyrenees. The final climb to the ski station at Super-Bagnères. 10 miles to go, but it's straight up. Greg LeMond and his group, including Colombian Luis Herrera and Swiss champion Urs Zimmermann in red, have passed Bernard Hinault, but not left him. Zimmermann's overall standing makes him dangerous, and if LeMond waits for Hinault, the team could be without the yellow jersey. It's clear that Hinault has encouraged the American to leave him and continue the race with the others. Hinault's pace has grown dangerously slower, and he has been passed by yet another group, including another of his teammates, American Andy Hampsten. It's now LeMond with the responsibility of controlling the race off the front. Andy Hampsten, number 5, tries to stay with England's Robert Miller. Like Zimmermann, Miller is a threat to Laviclair's yellow jersey, and if Hampsten can't slow him down, he must at least stay with him. Like a quarterback with no one to hear his signals, Hinault can only fight his fatigue and wonder how far he is behind all the action. Hampsten and Miller join Le Mans' group at the front, and now watch for Hampsten on the left. All at once, another American is in charge of this race. It's Hampsten, who with his victory in the Tour of Switzerland showed he is indeed a powerful force, and on the climb to Super Bagnères could win. A bit of indecision in Le Mans' group, and Herrera begins to falter. The attention must now be focused on Hampsten, who continues a pace that could not only win him the race, but the yellow jersey. Finally, Le Mans makes a move. Looks back for challengers, and there is none. Le Mans goes off in search of Hampsten. Hinault uses teammate Nicky Ruderman to pace him up the climb, but he is a full 5 minutes behind. Le Mans has caught and passed Hampsten and is alone at the front, and he now has a chance at the yellow jersey. Andy Hampsten struggles to hang on. In French means the world has a whole country on his side. Greg LeMond, he has won his first road race in the Tour de France. The first time an American has won a mountain road race. But the clock is still ticking. Coming into this test in the mountains, Le Mans was 5.5 minutes behind overall leader Hinault. What happens behind him determines whether or not he will wear yellow. And so still on the mountain, Bernard Hinault fights to keep his jersey. Back up top, Le Mans has refused interviews and is only concerned with what's happening with Hinault. Le Mans on the podium for today's win, and it's one he certainly earned. Hinault would go on to finish 4.5 minutes behind Greg, but he had saved his yellow treasure. Greg LeMond had come within 40 seconds of winning the jersey.
I'm confident that I can do it. The Tour de France is a race unlike any other race, and you're being attacked every day, and I just hope I never have a bad day in the Alps. That's something that can happen.
The standings after 13 days, 2 Americans in the top 6. That's never happened before. And Le Mans is 40 seconds away from making more history. All bets are off as to the winner in Paris. The daily ritual of administering the yellow jersey, enjoyed by Hinault. How long will this last? We'll be back with today's dramatic battle in the Alps a bit later on in our program. 13 days ago, 58 riders have been forced to quit the Tour de France bike race. And earlier today, the 152 remaining riders left the town of Gap on their way to the ski resort at Serre Chevalier, their first full day in the Alps. And right away, it was American Greg LeMond who attacked the mountains, and his group of climbers began to run away with the race. It was 1 year ago when LeMond was given a raw deal when his team asked him to back off his pace and help his teammate Bernard Hinault win his 5th Tour. Well, today, Hinault in the yellow race leader's jersey was being taken apart by LeMond. At the start of this stage, Hinault was only 40 seconds ahead of LeMond in the overall standings. And now, Greg was far enough ahead of Hinault to put him technically in the yellow jersey. A look back for Hinault, a real look, and Hinault was nowhere to be found. Could this really be happening? to finally sink in as LeMond realized he should be paying more attention to his race. The Swiss champion Urs Zimmermann leads Greg, and suddenly he is the American's chief worry. This now is the angry Greg LeMond, the man who was promised by Team Hinault that he would have the Frenchman's help this year. What was being said at the team car? Maybe it's what we heard early this morning before the race.
It's been really difficult for me because, you know, we have two leaders on the team. Both of us want to win. I always felt that, you know, a promise has been made that I helped Bernard win last year, and I felt that it was his turn to help me win this year, and it's been the contrary. It's been a battle against each other.
We've got to be working together, not against each other. But he just told me the war is now on. That's official.
I think we'll see LeMond in a yellow jersey tonight.
An outrageous prediction? Well, maybe. In any case, the Alps were soon to tell the tale.
At last and for the first time in his sparkling career, Greg LeMond is free to ride his own race. Accompanied by the Swiss champion Urs Zimmermann, LeMond attacked on the Col d'Izoard, knowing that Bernard Hinault had already been left behind by the best on the way up the mountain. Finally, everything Greg LeMond has promised is coming true. The American who made Europe smile when he said he could win the Tour de France now has the last lap. The Badger still fights to limit his losses. The Tour has still 600 miles to go after today. Hinault knew, though, someday the rider he trained, coached and encouraged would one day become a man who could inherit all the glories that the Tour de France creates. Towers above Briançon and climbs 7 miles to nowhere. But Greg LeMond will soon remember this lump of granite as the place where he became the first American to lead the Tour de France. The crowd knows history is again in the making. Hinault is beaten today, but he has helped make LeMond the champion he always knew he was. Even in defeat, Hinault has every reason to feel proud this day, as all America should. Greg LeMond has only to cross the finish to become the first American to lead the race in a history that goes back 83 years.
At the summit, LeMond was the third man to reach the ski station at Serre Chevalier. But of course it didn't matter. His finish was better than 3 minutes faster than Hinault. The climbing had taken its toll on Greg, but it was worth it. For now, he could wear a jersey bright yellow in color and become the first American to do so. And already LeMond was being overwhelmed by the press. Bernard Hinault, his yellow jersey would soon be gone. And now the historic moment. Greg LeMond in yellow. The blonde-haired, blue-eyed bike rider from Nevada was now leading the greatest bike race on Earth. The standings after 17 days, LeMond in the lead. The man in the middle, Urs Zimmermann. Afterwards, LeMond put the personal battle with Hinault behind him and put the focus on the finish line in Paris.
I think that Bernard realizes maybe that he can't win it now, and I think that Bernard's the type, I mean, normally he'd really keep his word, but, you know, he's been under a lot of pressure, and I think now that I've got a clear advantage over him, I think he really will support me 100%.
Back here at our base of operations this Sunday evening, the French Alps, where we feed you our program via satellite. The riders have long since retired for the evening, Greg LeMond with his historic yellow jersey tucked away in his hotel room drawer. But the race is not over for Greg LeMond or the other riders, because upcoming this week, 2 of the most torturous stages so far, 2 more days through the French Alps. The week ends up with a glittering ride down the Champs-Élysées for the man who can win the 1980 1986 Tour de France? Will Greg LeMond be able to hang on to his first yellow jersey? Will Bernard Hinault be able to take it away from him and win his historic 6th? We'll have it all for you next Sunday on CBS Sports Sunday. For now, I'm John Tesh. So long from the French Alps.